In the heart of a bustling Delhi, where stories are born and forgotten in the same breath, one story refuses to fade. It lives in the hushed whispers of hotel corridors, a tale that began on a humid evening in 1998. It is the story of Room 309, a room that swallowed a man whole, leaving behind only a chilling silence and a mystery that lingers like the winter fog over the Yamuna. Sometimes, a place chooses its own stories. It picks a moment, a person, and weaves them into its very walls. This hotel, with its old-world charm and polite staff, was about to become the keeper of a secret that even time could not unravel. The mystery began not with a bang, but with the quiet turn of a key. He arrived as the city lights began to flicker on, a solitary figure against the evening rush. The man was about 40, his face etched with lines that spoke of long journeys and untold tales. He wore a crisp, formal suit, slightly out of place in the Delhi heat, and carried a single, heavy-looking suitcase. At the reception, his requests were peculiar. He paid for one night, in cash, laying down a neat stack of notes on the polished counter. When the clerk, a young man named Samir, asked for identification, the guest politely refused. He didn't offer a reason. He just smiled a little. A smile that didn't quite reach his intense dark eyes. Something about him felt strange, like a character who had walked out of a book and into the wrong story. The staff exchanged uneasy glances as he was handed the key to room 309. In a city that ran on paperwork and identity, his refusal was a small act of rebellion, a red flag fluttering in the breeze of hotel policy. Samir noted it in the register, a small asterisk next to the room number. The bellboy who carried the man's suitcase up to the third floor later said he didn't speak a single word during the entire elevator ride. He just stared at the floor indicator, his grip tight on his briefcase, as if he was counting down the seconds to an inevitable appointment. The air around him was heavy with an unspoken purpose, a quiet determination that made the bellboy's skin prickle with a strange sense of foreboding. The last time anyone saw him was on the grainy footage of the hallway's CCTV camera. The timestamp showed 8:15 p.m. He walked down the corridor with a steady, unhurried pace, stopped in front of the door to room 309, unlocked it, and stepped inside. The door clicked shut behind him, and the man vanished from the world. The camera, a silent, unblinking eye, kept watch over the empty hallway all night. It recorded the occasional staff member passing by, the flicker of the corridor lights, the slow march of time. But it never recorded the door to room 309 opening again. It never saw the man in the formal suit leave. He had walked into the room and simply ceased to exist. The next morning, the sun rose over Delhi, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It was checkout time, 11 a.m. When the guest from room 309 did not appear at the reception, Samir called the room's telephone. There was no answer. He let it ring 10, 15 times, the sound echoing in the quiet of the morning lobby. He felt a familiar knot of unease tightening in his stomach. He waited another hour, but the silence from the third floor remained absolute. Finally, following protocol, the hotel manager and a housekeeper went upstairs to check on the room. They stood before the door, a silent barrier between the known and the unknown, and knocked firmly. "Housekeeping," they called out. Only silence answered. With a growing sense of dread, the manager used his master key to open the door. It was locked from the inside with the bolt. This was the first puzzle. How could a room be bolted from within if the guest had left? After several more attempts to get a response, they had no choice but to force the bolt open. The lock gave way with a sharp crack, and the door swung inward, revealing the room. It was pristine, untouched, and eerily still. The bed was perfectly made, its white sheets smooth and uncreased, as if no one had slept in it at all. The air was cool and stagnant, holding no trace of human presence. It was as if the room had been holding its breath all night. The room was a picture of suspended time. On the luggage rack near the wall sat the man's suitcase, closed and latched. Next to it, on a chair, was the formal suit he had been wearing, neatly folded. His polished shoes were placed carefully on the floor beside the chair. Everything was in its place, except for the man himself. They checked the bathroom. It was empty and dry. They checked the wardrobe. It was vacant. The single window in the room was shut and locked firmly from the inside, its latch covered in a thin layer of dust that seemed undisturbed. There was no way out. There were no signs of a struggle, no overturned furniture, nothing out of place. It was a perfectly sealed chamber. The manager and housekeeper looked at each other, their faces pale with confusion and a creeping fear. Where could he have gone? It was a question that hung in the air, heavy and unanswerable. A man couldn't just disappear from a locked room on the third floor. It defied logic, defied all rational explanation. It was a magic trick without a magician, a riddle without a clue. They searched the room again, their hands trembling slightly as they opened drawers and looked under the bed. But there was nothing. Only the man's abandoned belongings and a silence that seemed to scream louder than any sound. The room felt like a stage after the play had ended, the actors gone, leaving only the props behind. The police were called. Two serious-looking inspectors arrived, their faces grim as they surveyed the scene. They walked into room 309, their presence filling the small space. But even they seemed confounded by the sheer impossibility of it all. They questioned the staff, scrutinized the CCTV footage, and examined every inch of the room. They confirmed what the hotel staff already knew. The guest had entered the room, but he had never come out. The window was locked, the door was bolted from the inside. There were no secret passages, no holes in the walls, no plausible explanation for his disappearance. He had simply vanished into thin air. The investigation hit a wall almost immediately. The man had paid in cash and refused to provide any identification. He had no credit card trail, no phone number, no name in the register. He was a ghost even before he disappeared. The police ran a check on missing persons, but without a name or a face to go on, it was a hopeless task. He was a John Doe, a man without a past, who now had no future. Frustrated, the inspectors decided to go through his belongings one last time, hoping to find a forgotten clue, a stray piece of information that could give this phantom an identity. They opened the suitcase, but it contained only a few sets of ordinary clothes. It was inside the pocket of his folded suitcoat that they found it, a small torn piece of paper, looking like it was ripped from a notebook. On it, written in a hurried, almost frantic script, were 4 simple words. The ink was slightly smudged, as if written by a trembling hand. The message was not a suicide note nor a cry for help. It was a warning, stark and chilling, that made no sense at all. It read, "Don't open 309. The words were a paradox, a message from the vanished man found inside the very room he warned against. It was a key that locked the mystery even tighter, a whisper from the void that only deepened the confusion. The discovery of the note sent a shiver through everyone present. What did it mean? Was it a warning to the hotel staff, a message for the police? Or was it a reminder the man had written for himself, a rule he had somehow broken? The note offered no answers, only more questions that spiraled into the realm of the supernatural. The investigation eventually grew cold. With no body, no identity, and no evidence of a crime, the file was left open, gathering dust in some forgotten cabinet. The man from room 309 was officially declared a missing person, another nameless face lost in the sprawling anonymity of the city. But the story was far from over. The hotel management, unable to explain the incident and fearing for its reputation, made a decision. Room 309 was to be sealed. The door was permanently locked, its number removed from the corridor, and its existence erased from the hotel's booking system. It became a blind spot on the third floor, a room that was there but wasn't. But you cannot seal a story. You cannot lock away a memory. The tale of the man who disappeared began to seep through the walls, passed down in hushed tones from older staff to newer recruits. It became the hotel's own ghost story, a legend whispered late at night when the corridors were quiet and the shadows grew long. Over the years, the legend grew. Some said the man was a sorcerer who had performed a ritual that went wrong. Others believed he had stumbled upon a portal to another dimension, hidden within the room. Guests staying in the adjacent rooms, 308 and 310, would sometimes report strange occurrences. They spoke of hearing faint whispers from the other side of the wall, the sound of someone pacing, or a sudden, inexplicable drop in temperature in the middle of the night. The cleaning staff would often report that the sealed door to 309 was cold to the touch, no matter how warm the hallway was. The room had become more than just an empty space. It was a presence. The story of room 309 became a piece of Delhi's hidden folklore, a modern mystery woven into the fabric of the ancient city. It was a reminder that even in a world of technology and logic, there are some doors that should never be opened, some questions that have no answers. The room sits there still, silent and waiting, holding its secret close. It is a monument to an impossible event, a place where reality seemed to bend for just one night. The hotel continues its business, the city continues to thrum with life, but on the third floor, a small part of 1998 is frozen in time, locked away behind a door with no number. Today is August 27, 2025. More than a quarter of a century has passed since that humid evening. The world has changed in countless ways, but the mystery of room 309 remains as unsolved as ever. The story lives on, a chilling piece of theatre for the curious and the brave. And so, I ask you, if you were to find yourself in that Delhi hotel, and if you were somehow offered the key to that forgotten room, would you take it? Would you dare to turn the lock, push open the door and spend a night in room 309? What secrets do you think are waiting to be found inside?